Alright, everybody, put down Pokemon Sun or Moon or whichever one you got. Don't. I'm not the boss of you. It's time for another Ink and Paint Club review. And we're still in the thralls of Final Fantasy month. If you haven't been keeping up with it, basically because Final Fantasy 15 is coming out at the end of November here, we decided that, what the hell, we'll just go back and take a look at some of Final Fantasy's animated films over the last couple years. Past couple weeks we've done Legend of the Crystals from the 90s. We did Spirits Within last week, and this week we'll be tackling Advent Children, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, as always, I'm your host JD, and with me, returning from not too terribly long ago, Luca is back with us today.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Yeah. It's just going to be me and Luca today, so just a little two-person dealy. It's kind of like with me and Kyle, except, Luca's not Kyle.
No, I'm not.
No,
A little okay. One-on-one here.
Yeah, there you go. Well, so before we get started, I guess, Luca, I need to ask, on a scale of, 1 to 10, approximately how big is your nerd boner for Final Fantasy VII?
About a 15. About a 15, maybe
okay.
20.
Okay, all
Depends
right.
which Final Fantasy we're going into here.
Yeah. So you're a big fan of 7 then? That'd be an understatement.
7's a great one. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but 7, like a lot of 90 kids like myself, it was my gateway Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So it was my first one I ever played.
Yeah.
I
don't know if I've said in the last couple of reviews my relationship with Final Fantasy. I never really played Final Fantasy as a kid. I didn't play 7 until I was probably in high school when I played it for the first time. So that was in the mid to late 2000s.
Yeah.
It's good. I like the I think 7 has the most recognizable characters out of all of the games so far, at least from an outsider's perspective.
For sure.
But I played a little bit of 3 for the DS. I've tried playing 6. Played 7 a little bit. I didn't get too far. I don't think I even completed the first disc.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started playing 9, and we were gonna play 9 for the channel here, which never got around to it. But I was liking 9 from what I.
9 is definitely one of the more lighthearted ones compared to more deep brooding nature that 7 brings.
Oh boy!
And
let's get into this this movie. I had not watched. I think the last time I watched Advent Children was probably in high school, because a lot of my friends who were huge Final Fantasy nerds were like, "Oh my god, this movie's amazing!" So I watched it, and I didn't realize there's the regular version, and then you told me there's a complete version, which is it's got 20 extra minutes of footage or something.
Basically.
I must have watched the complete version in high school or whatever, because when I rewatched it last night, I didn't notice anything different plot-wise or footage-wise, so I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, I guess if you haven't watched this movie before, essentially, my understanding of the film, anyway, this takes place 2 years after the events of 7. Sephiroth's gone, and everyone's kind of settling into their mundane lives, I guess.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and then these weird Riku from Kingdom Hearts looking motherfuckers show up, saying they're gonna resurrect Sephiroth because that's just what you do. And everyone fights a giant monster in the sky, and yeah.
Yeah, so the 3 bad guys are basically the remnants of Sephiroth. essentially
Right.
they're like clones of Sephiroth, and they
Okay.
all each embody one of his physical traits and personality traits.
Okay. I
So
guess
like
that makes
so
more
you got
sense, I
like
guess.
Laws, the big dude who embodies Sephiroth's strength, and Sephiroth's attachment to Mother. Then you
Oh
got
man.
Yazoo, who is has personality wise Sephiroth's very blah aloof nature,
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
and for physical traits it's his precision
Sure. Yeah,
because
like
he's marksman.
right. Um yeah, so when I was rewatching this, I was kind of having some of the problems that I had with when we talked about Spirits Within last week. I kind of mentioned that they don't explain too much about what's going on. Like this movie is heavily dependent on the fact that you've played and understand the plot of Final Fantasy VII.
Pretty
Uh,
much.
if you went in blind to this, having no idea what happened in Seven, then good
It
luck
does
to
not
you.
work out. Like,
But yeah, they like these three guys show up, these remnant guys show up, and they start doing their due, and they kind of explain what they're doing, but not entirely. So it's like I'm kind of following. I get that they want like the Genova mother lady so they can resurrect Sephiroth. I got that much.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I honestly kind of watching this, and this is like one of my probably the best parts of this movie. Is kind of just like there's these very heavy-handed plot sequences only to kind of connect these really kind of amazing to watch fight scenes.
Like basically if you went into this movie, the best way to describe it is fight porn.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Like it's here's a little bit of dialogue, a little bit of backstory, a little bit this fight scene, 4 minute fight scene,
right,
and
and
another
it's
5 minutes of dialogue, 5 minute fight scene.
right, and like watching this is like I don't know if like Monty Ohm, who from like who did Ruby and all those old what was it,
Yeah,
Dead Fantasy, was that it? Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know if
Dead
he was
Fantasy.
inspired by this or if they were inspired by him, but like these fight scenes are fucking insane because there's just people like throwing shit at people and everyone's just doing flips and like flying through the air and throwing beams at stuff.
Laws his leg for days, throwing the
It's just like,
motorcycle.
and it's like it's all these like physically impossible things are going on. Like, I mean, one of the crowning set pieces of this movie is there's a part of this where this giant. Do you know who is this giant monster that they summon?
Oh, it's a variation of one of Final Fantasy's staple
Okay,
summons,
I thought it was
Bahamut, the
Bahamut.
dragon.
But yeah, there's this so
It
there's this
is.
part
It,
about halfway through the movie, where the three remnant dudes like summon Bahamut or whatever in the middle of a city, start fucking up, and then like literally all the party members from Seven just show up and fight this thing. But then there's this,
it,
and this is where like I kind of throw all sort of logic out the window for this. Is like Bahamut's all like like 1,000 feet in the sky and they can't get to him. So Cloud just jumps and everyone is just jumping off a scaffolding, throwing him up midair, and it's just what the hell is going on?
and remember, physics do not apply
They
in the
sure
world of
don't,
video games.
because I mean,
They
I
never
mean it's
do.
I mean that whole sequence is like my favorite part of this movie. Is just like you get Sid, Barrett, Yuffie, and Sid Caith and Red, or everyone just comes back in that scene to fight Bahamut, and it's kind of amazing watching like them just swap from character to character what they're doing to fight this giant monster.
And even got Aerith at
Yeah,
the end too. even though
Right.
she's dead. Spoiler
If
alert,
you don't know that
guys.
Aerith dies in Final Fantasy VII, where have you been?
Hey, what
Right.
rock have you been
And
living
you
under?
even get little glimpses of Zack, who, oh yeah, I played some of Crisis Core too. Um,
That is basically the point of complete version. Like after Crisis
mhm.
Core was released and the whole story of Zack was explained, Advent Children was like, okay, we have plot holes now. We need to fill in those missing plot
Yeah.
holes with
Right.
Zack's stuff.
Um,
It's
basically.
yeah,
But yeah, all the fight scenes in this are great. I mean, I love the first one where it's just Cloud fighting those demon dogs and the remnants out in the desert with the motorcycles, and then when he goes to their weird glowy forest thing, and Vincent comes out to help him, and
is is a well-known location in Seven. It's the Forgotten
okay,
Capitals forest. It's the place where
okay,
Eric died.
yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
sure there was like I'm generally familiar with Seven. Like I know that Shinra is bad and Sephiroth hates them and the rest of the world, and he turns into this weirdo fucking Cthulhu looking
Psychopath.
monster at the end, and he kills Aerith. I've seen that scene over, but there's like the little intricacies that I don't know. But it wasn't too bad because I could follow it enough without having to get those references. Um,
Yeah.
but as much as I praise this movie, and Luca, you're gonna we talked about this last night a little bit. So last week I on the Spirits Within review, we had said about how the acting wasn't great because I watched the English dub of this because I can't speak the Japanese acting because it's in a different language and I can't judge that.
I hate Spirits Within, so you can shit and all you want.
Um, well, what I wanted to say is that I watched the English version of Advent Children, and I it kind of puts Spirits Within in a new light in terms of acting for me now because I did not enjoy the acting in this at all. um,
You
Go
got a
ahead.
fair point. Like it's a very nuanced voice acting setup for Seven because the problem with translating Seven's
Mm,
Japanese dub into English is that a lot of characters in the Japanese version, like Reno, for instance, have like a vocal tick, sort of like think like Naruto's
right.
Datebayo crap, that they changed to
Mm-hmm.
English with the Believe It crap. There's a lot of things like that in the original Japanese stuff that couldn't be translated
Right.
completely
Um.
into the English dub, so they had to
Yeah.
play it
Well,
around.
I get the fact like because I understand that like translating from English to Japanese, and especially with this movie where it's not like regular anime where they basically have lip flaps. And you had like you're trying to match it up to actual lip movement. Um.
Yeah. This was one of those movies that I don't think had the lip movements to
Well,
match the English
the I mean
completely.
obviously you're not going to get it exactly right. I think they did fine with matching up the lips. But my problem with the acting is one, I think the sound is really weird. Like it's very obvious in a lot of spots that they're recording in a studio. Like there's a scene with a
Oh yeah,
helicopter where it barely has any background sounding effects and it doesn't have like any it doesn't sound like he's in a cockpit. He sounds like he's in a studio. Or that part where the remnant guy and the Shinra guy are like up in some building and they're talking and it's like it doesn't sound like you're talking in a building. You're talking in
yeah,
like in an enclosed room. And like the whole movie is
yeah. Instead of like in
right.
open
Yeah.
space.
So like the whole movie is like this, and and I don't know if it's like on the part of the actors, because I know a lot of the actors in this are good actors. Um,
They really are. There are a lot of good
right.
names in this movie. I think um, it might be studio choices. It might have been
Mm-hmm.
directorial choices in the end that might have affected the sound design. Like, I know it's a lot of
Yeah.
director choice that also affected their
Right. And but
performances.
I think the thing I was wanting to get to is that like it seems like a lot of the dialogue one is very very literal from what was in Japanese, but because of that, a lot of the dialogue seems really stilted, and it seems like it's very obviously these guys are reading off a script. Um, and I
Yeah.
mean, like because we were saying that you're trying to match up with the lip movements, a lot of characters end up like taking these pauses in their dialogue, so everyone kind of talks like this. Like they'll just pause in the middle of a sentence because that's where the lip movements were. And I mean, I get that you're trying to get around that,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like a lot of the dialogue just feels really wooden a lot of the time.
Yeah, like the hard thing with doing Final Fantasy VII into a movie right off the bat with all these actors is that like you don't when you go to the original background of Seven, everything was dialogue
Mm-hmm.
boxes you read. So you didn't really know what their voice sounded like or what kind of personality they had only unless you read
Right.
their whole scripts from and understood
Mm-hmm.
their personality. Like a lot of people feel that everyone's performance was awkward in Seven, while there were the choice few
Mm-hmm.
that were good. Like Christy Romano's Yuffie was
Yeah,
perfectly
like I don't
fine.
have any problems with anyone's voice per se. Like, I think Rachel Lee Cook is Tifa. I don't have any problems with that. Like everyone's voice is fine. It's just their delivery is what bothers me.
Yeah, like the hard, like the few that I feel got their delivery just fine were Reno
Mm-hmm.
and Rude
Okay, but okay, I have to ask: is the
because
guy who voices Reno the same person who voices Axel in Kingdom Hearts? Okay, because it
yep,
was bugging me through the entire movie. It's like it sounds exactly like Axel.
it's
I was about
totally
to say, it's like,
intentional.
did they do that on purpose because they're both redheads, like spiky redheads?
Yeah, Axel in Kingdom Hearts was designed
That's
intentionally to look
funny.
like Reno and even voiced by the same guy by Reno. It was Square Enix's way of adding in a character without
I
it
got
being
you.
the
That's
same
funny though.
character.
I did not pick that up until now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I know some about Final Fantasy, but not a lot. I want to know: is this the part where they started making Cloud more like emo, or did that happen before this movie?
The brooding aspect of Cloud, there is some of it in
Right.
the original game. Like, he definitely becomes a lot more somber after Eris dies, and then he finds out the truth
Mm-hmm.
about his past. He, but he still has a little bit of that edge to him. Like even at the end of the game, and when they're about to go in the final dungeon, his line is for them to head out is "Let's mosey."
Yeah,
Yeah, but
like for what little I played of Seven, like you start out the game, Cloud's kind of like a snarky asshole. Um, like
it's because Cloud's emulating
okay,
Zack. That's the reason Cloud acts the way he does in the beginning of the game. he's kind of replaced his whole memories with Zack's memories, so he emulates Zack more than
That's trippy,
himself.
man. That's weird.
It is. It's weird.
God.
It's weird as fuck. But yeah, the movie the movie's more like Cloud dealing a lot with the PTSD and regret of not being able to save
Oh god, it
Zack or
totally is. I mean,
Eric.
there's a whole part like it's toward the end of the movie where he basically goes like to heaven or whatever. And I love that there's this whole line where like Cloud's basically died and like the spirit of Aerith and Zack are like just standing there talking to him and is like, dude, you're not supposed to be here yet. So they send him back.
I loved Eric's voice in that movie. I hear a lot of flack for Mina Suvari's
Hmm.
portrayal of Aerith, but I'm probably one of the few who actually enjoyed Mina
Yeah,
Suvari
I
as
I wasn't
Aerith.
bothered by it. I mean, it just sounded like generic woman voice actor. So like, I'm not. I I didn't hate it. I didn't like it. It's just like okay, it's fine. It's whatever.
But I think it's funny because Aerith's gone through the most
Oh, I'm
voice
sure.
actors changes. She was Mandy Moore
Oh,
in
that's
Kingdom Hearts
right.
1,
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
and
Oh, I'm
everybody
sure.
hated
And she's
that.
gonna have to be back in Kingdom Hearts 3 when they put the Tangled World in.
Yeah, and then Kingdom Hearts 2 and Advent Children was
Hmm.
Mina Suvari. And then Crisis Core and onwards, it's been
Okay.
Andrea Bowen, who has been like the most
All
well
right.
received voice. So Andrea will probably be the one coming back for any more
Yeah, I do
Aerith.
remember in Kingdom Hearts 2 her voice kind of bothering me a little bit just because it sounded weird. But in this movie, it didn't bother me at all. Mostly because I don't think she had a whole lot of lines, so I didn't have time to get bothered by it.
Yeah,
But yeah, um, yeah. I mean this movie's fine. It's I wasn't I can't say I was getting bored by it like I was with Spirits Within, because there's a fight scene almost every 5 minutes in this movie. Um, it does get
they ultimately, I think this movie was just like Square Enix saying, here's what we can do with our graphics engine, and here's what eventually we could make our battle
right.
systems
I mean,
like.
I play Final Fantasy
You'll,
feels like that.
you already saw it in Kingdom Hearts
Yeah,
2.
I mean, I keep saying that if they made Final Fantasy with the Kingdom Hearts engine, I'd play Final Fantasy more often.
Well, that's what they're doing with
Okay.
15, basically. It's a little more
Yeah, and
actiony.
like that's what I like about Kingdom Hearts is that like you're dropped in. Yes, it has some RPG stuff where you have to like power up and like equip stuff and stuff, but you're literally just you go, you hit stuff. There's no turn takings. You just run around in a 3D space and whack stuff with a stick. um,
With a giant
right,
T-shaped
and
sword.
it almost seems like I haven't heard too much about it. But the remake they're doing for Seven is gonna be have a lot more action stuff in it. Um,
It is. It's still probably going to be a little bit
mm-hmm,
turn-based, but it's definitely going to be a lot more
mm-hmm,
action-oriented. And to get my 2 cents out here with the whole old school battle system versus the
mm-hmm.
action battle system, um, for the game to evolve, it needs to become
No,
more
I
action
agree.
oriented. As much as everybody loves their classics, that's where they belong now. They belong
Mm-hmm.
in the classics. With anything new, you gotta go new. You gotta step it up. You gotta bring something new to the table. Otherwise, it just
Yeah,
feels
I mean, I've been
rehashed.
playing. We just got Sun and Moon over the weekend here, Pokemon. And even though it's still turn based and it's still, more or less the same Pokemon, they've been adding, new stuff here and there, so it doesn't feel like it. They were just rehashing the same game over and over again. Um, But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to the Seven remake. I've got Seven. I bought it for my PSP forever ago, and then we just got a PS3 in the last couple of months, so I transferred it over to there so I can play it on my TV now. So maybe I'll go back to that one of these days. But yeah.
It's hard.
Um, I'll have to answer that question later. But yeah, so I guess is I don't really know if we've covered it yet, but for this movie, is there anything like you just outright did not like about it?
Mm, I mean, there could be bits of it I didn't like. I mean, I feel like they could have done more with it for sure. Like the plot was very stilted
Yeah,
or stiff. It was it was a very generic plot. And like I said, this movie is not about its plot, it's about the fight
yeah,
for it.
I agree.
Like if you really wanted to watch this movie for a very interesting plot, there's a ton of better movies. If you want to watch it for some crazy fight scene choreography done in like an amazing graphics engine, then go
Mm-hmm.
nuts with this movie.
Oh, okay, okay. I just remembered this. There is actually one glaring thing that I actually really do not like about this movie. I do not like the whole subplot with Denzel. I hate that kid so much.
Oh God. Uh, yeah, I didn't like Denzel either. It felt like a very shoehorned element. Like, it would have made more sense with just
Right.
Marlene.
Like it's just this. It was Denzel in the game, or is he original for this movie? Okay, I thought so.
Original for
Uh,
this movie. Marlene was part of the game. Marlene
right,
was
I remember
Barrett's
that
daughter.
much. But yeah, I felt like Denzel was just in the movie to like, oh, we need to give Cloud a reason to go save all these children. Um, but I felt like there could have been another reason for to get him into that. Like have the like they had the guys attacking him. Why not have him go after them? And just like, oh hey, we're kidnapping children. Do something about that. But no, you have to have like this annoying little kid that he has some weird attachment to that he has to go save and stuff. And I don't know. I felt him very unnecessary to the movie.
I said, I feel like Denzel was a very pointless plot element, and Marlene honestly would have filled the role perfectly fine without the
Mm-hmm.
shoehorn feeling,
Um,
because Marlene actually had significance
right.
from the original story.
Um, also, so one last thing I want to get on this, and I apologize to the listeners. I don't mean, please don't take this the wrong way. How do you feel about this movie's art style in the sense that like they made everyone look very Japanese? Like they look like real Japanese people, as much as anime people can look real. Um, because go ahead.
I think I think that's just how it was ultimately. Like they worked with what they had. They did what they made their choices and they went
Mm,
with that ultimately. I don't think there was a specific reason ultimately. I think they just made a directorial decision and they ultimately stuck with
yeah,
it the whole way.
that makes sense. I don't know. It just kind of bummed me out because Seven had like a really cool art style. And I thought it would be nice. Like obviously you can't directly translate that into 3D because could you imagine Cloud's hair in 3D? I mean they did what they could with it. Um, but I don't know. It seemed like a weird choice to me to like to take that like really kind of cool anime kind of style inspired art style and translate into this like very realistic Japanese look because it's like Cloud isn't as obvious, but it's like you look at Tifa, you look at all the kids, and it's like they're very much modeled after like actual how actual like Japanese people look. Um, and I get it. They made the movie. They can put their own people in it. I just feel it was weird to like go to skew more of a uh, realistic slant rather than kind of try to translate the game's art style. In,
On more diverse, basically.
yeah, yeah. I guess that's a good way to put it. I'm not saying it's bad. It's still very nice looking. A lot of the graphics still pretty hold up. I think the only part of this movie which kind of sticks out to me is Red for some reason. He looks very CG. Yeah.
Red 13. Well, there's an honest to God good reason why he has very little screen time. It's because he was the hardest character to animate for this whole entire movie. It's every individual hair
Oh Jesus.
is a model. That's why he gets very little screen time, because to model that perfectly, like, it's hours. It's
Oh yeah.
weeks just to do
Yeah.
some of his
You
scenes.
mean
So that's why he gets next to no screen time.
right? Yeah.
One line.
He's in the beginning. He's in the Bahamut fight, and he's at the very end where he gets his one line. That's about all you see of him. And
Pretty much.
I was kind of wondering why they made the decision of like having Kate Sith riding Red during the Bahamut fight, because doesn't he have like a big Moogle robot or something?
Yeah, he does. I don't know why they decided to take out the Moogle robot. Maybe they just couldn't work with it. I mean, they included it in the complete.
I did. I love that
opening
scene where
sequence.
they're like kind of rehashing the plot of Seven, and they have like this big splash thing where all the party members just like do this jump out like into this big heroic pose or whatever, and it has Kate riding a stupid Moogle robot.
The thing I feel like it felt like Final Fantasy. I loved it, but the only thing that felt like it was missing from Final Fantasy was the magic element. Like the bad guys use magic, for sure.
They didn't use a whole
But,
lot of materia in this, did they?
yeah, well, yeah. The only one who did was probably Red 13 for his one hit.
Oh, I know. In the fight in the forest, Cloud used his blade beam or whatever it's called.
A lot of limit breaks were used.
Yeah,
in this
and I'll be
movie.
honest, a lot of the only reason I know some of Cloud's attacks is because of Smash Brothers now. By the way, everybody,
fair.
Cloud is super OP in Smash Brothers. It's not hard to win with him.
I would not know yet. I have not gotten any of the DLC for
DLC is
Smash
so
Bros.
good though.
I know. I want to get it, but it's so
Well,
expensive.
honestly, there's rumors
to
going
get it
around that they're gonna be porting it to the Switch here, and I guarantee if they do that, they'll just put all the DLC on the disc. So we'll see about that.
Probably.
Um,
And
yeah. So I guess I've kind of said my piece of this movie. I mean, it's a good movie. If you're a fan of Seven, I'm sure you'll get a lot out of it. If you have no idea what Seven is, this movie's probably lost on you. But Luca, do you have any final thoughts on this movie?
it's hard to say. Like, this movie has its ups. It has its downs. It's fight porn.
I'm gonna
It really
subtitle
is
this
just
review as
fight
fight porn.
Hashtag fight porn.
That's gonna go when I
Hashtag
post this to
fight
Twitter.
porn,
I'm gonna put
people.
hashtag fight porn.
Fight porn.
Oh, good. I love that. Yeah.
I know.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, if you're a big fan of Final Fantasy or Final Fantasy VII, by all means watch this or watch it again if you haven't seen it in a while. If not, I don't know what you're gonna get out of this, to be honest.
Yeah, it, I'm I'm looking forward to the remake. If anything, the remake opens the possibility of some of the other Final Fantasies I love getting remade. Even my
Which
favorite
one is your favorite, by the
possibly.
way?
People are gonna hate me for this. I love 8. 8 is my
Hey,
favorite one.
I've got nothing in this game, so I'm there's no judgment from me.
I think 8 is a fun one for me. 8 is a beautiful romance story the whole way
Well,
through.
yeah, because I'm not really big on brooding in my video games. Like that's why I like 9, because it's like I've only played like maybe the first hour of. Right, it's really lighthearted, and that's why I've been trying to play Tales of Vesperia on and off. Like we did that review a couple months ago, and I like that because it's pretty lighthearted. I mean, I play Mario and Pokemon most of the time, so you can obviously see my gauge for what I do in video games. But yeah, but
yeah, 8 is definitely a little more brooding, and you would know
fucking
with Squall.
Leon.
Oh, he is the brood of brooding.
The only thing I like about Leon is his sword, because it's pretty cool. But
yeah, that's basically the trademark of 8. It's the gunblade.
well, before we start rambling on about the lore of the Final Fantasy series, I think we'll wrap this up. So if you haven't watched our my cat just ran into a wall. If you haven't listened to our, like I said at the beginning of this, if you haven't listened to our other reviews up for Final Fantasy month, please go do that. We could definitely use your views, and hey, maybe you'll find something new you haven't watched yet, because especially that OVA from the 90s that I reviewed at the beginning of the month, that one was weird, because I think it was like based on 5 or something, but
I have never watched that one. I kind of
it's weird. It's not bad, it's just weird. And then make sure you come back next week after Thanksgiving, where we'll be reviewing Kingsglaive.
I'm still waiting to get my game so I can
see, that's
watch
the thing.
it
Like
finally.
I for Kingsglaive, and I'll probably say this again next week, I don't know jack all about Final Fantasy 15, so I'm wondering how much I'm gonna get out of watching Kingsglaive later this week. So
Well, Kingsglaive, from what I understand so far, just to give an advanced preview to people, Kingsglaive takes place at the same time as the beginning of Final Fantasy 15.
So it's the 358/2 of Final Fantasy.
Basically.
Oh God, I have a poster for that game on my wall right now, and I'm not particularly proud of that. So, but anyway, guys, what? 358/2. They gave it to me when I bought it at GameStop in high school, and I just haven't. I like it. It is nice art. But anyway, again, thanks guys for listening to this review. Tell us if you like Advent Children or 7 or Final Fantasy in general in the comments, and make sure you share this episode with your friends. I feel like I don't say that enough when I end these things. But Luca, thank you again for joining me. We were kind of short-staffed, so you kind of saved me from talking to myself for a half hour again.
Hey,
right.
What are friends for? We'll do Final Fantasy video game reviews another day.
Right. I'll see if I can get us into game reviews at some point. All right, guys. Make sure you tune back in next week when we review Kingsglaive. But until then, we'll catch you next time.